Anyway, and 1, 2, 3.
I can hear you, okay.
Perfect. What I'll do, I should go 3, 2, 1, and then we'll start, if that's all right.
Okay, let me put just let me do one thing. Are we still there?
Oh, I am.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay.
Perfect, Jess, thank you. And
Jess Conrad, actor, singer, OBE.
Yes, of course. Now, do I officially call you sir, or if you could teach me something before we start? Well, how should I? Because obviously it's not Mister. Are you sir?
You can call me what you like, as long as when you're set, you're actually kneeling down.
Yes.
Oh, that's brilliant.
If I knelt down, thank you. If
you have to get back up, darling.
Well, you had to do it for Her Majesty, didn't you? So, yeah, I'll try.
Royal Highness Princess Anne.
Princess Anne, was it? Oh, lovely.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And she had a great sense of humour. She said, I hope you're not disappointed I'm not the Queen.
Oh, I'm sure you weren't.
I said, as long as you're not disappointed I'm not George Clooney.
That's good.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Right, Jess, I like that. See if we can put that in. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. And now on Chatterbox UK, we're just lucky enough to welcome Jess Conrad OBE. Jess, welcome to Chatterbox UK. How are you?
Hello, Jess.
You're the right person for Chatterbox because you can chatter. Chatterbox.
Maybe.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm so thrilled to speak to you. I've heard so much about you through the showbiz grapevine, so I'm thrilled that you found time to talk to me.
Well, bless you. In fact, that's very kind. I'm humbled, but thank you. Now, I discovered you a bit later in your career. It was all like around 1979, 1980. So I went from there and worked backwards to discover you. And we will start at the beginning, Jess, if we can. And let's talk about your childhood. You were born in London, and
I was born within the sound of both bells.
Perfect.
General Line Hospital, and it makes me a true Cockney.
A real Cockney, yeah.
Islington Lying in Hospital. Oh, I forgot where I was born now. Sorry, but I know it was in the sound of Bow Bells, and which makes me a true Cockney. And my mother was a South London beauty queen, and obviously very beautiful. Some people say I take after her. I only say that because it's a very silly thing to say, but they do say that. But she was a very attractive woman. And when I was at school, the mothers used to come every Friday for some reason to pick up their children, and I loved it when my mother came because she was the best looking mum, you know. She looked very much like a big film star then, whose name was Linda Darnell. And so she had film star looks, and she was a South London beauty queen. So, you know, it was fabulous having a mother that I showed off a bit, you know.
Well done, that's wonderful. Now, as a child, did you come from a musical home, or how did you develop, you know, what became your career, films and singing? I mean...
well, it's you know, have you got a year? I mean, it's so long. But I would have to say that my father had a band called the Night Owls. He was a jazz pianist who loved Fats Waller and those kind of guys back then, Louis Armstrong. So he was always playing the piano all day. Well, not all day, but you know, when he could. And of course, he was so popular with the family, which was huge, because he played the piano, and of course every Christmas everybody wanted him to go to their house and play the piano, and we had great parties at our house playing the piano. So and he would sing as well. So when I became a pop star kind of overnight, because I look like a pop star, sounds silly really, doesn't it? But there you are. The singing thing, which they thought was unbelievably all of a sudden we ask this young man to sing and he can sing. And I never thought twice about it because it came second nature to me. Not me singing, but the fact that my father sang all the time. So I just sang as if I was singing along with him. It didn't seem to bother me at all. And that's how that happened. And of course, me singing was another, not a mistake, but a thing that happened. I happened to be cast in the Play of the Week. And on television in those days, there was the Film of the Week, the London Palladium, and Play of the Week. There weren't all these channels, so everybody watched the Play of the Week. And this week was a play about, and it was called Rockabye Barney. And it was about a pop star. It was about a pop star. And the fans all went mad because everybody watched television in those days. There was not much else to do. Well, there weren't all those channels, so they all watched, one of the 3 channels or the 2 channels. And because it was about pop stars, all the kids watched it, and they went crazy. And the fan mail I got the next day was unbelievable. So I went to see a man called Jack Good, who was the Simon Cowell of that era.
Yes, I've heard of him.
And he was rehearsing. I found him in a church hall on Chiswick Green, and he was rehearsing Oh Boy, Wham, A Boy Meets Girl, the shows he did, and he was rehearsing one of the early ones of those, and I went to see him. I found out where he was, and he, as I say, he was the Simon Cowell of that era. He was the man that made pop stars, and I went to see him because I thought, because I'd just done this play, perhaps I could compare one of his shows. And I went in the church hall, and there was, I was there with all these big pop stars, and I was young, so I knew about pop music, but I never knew I'd meet any of them. And there they all were. There was Eddie Cochran and Gene Vincent, who came over from America to do the show. And I came in, and he kind of saw me and said, "Oh, hello, Jess Conrad." I said, "Jess." And I said, I've come to, I said, he said, well, everybody knows who you are. And I said, oh, because I'd come to see you about maybe comparing a show. Perhaps I could do that, because all the teenagers were, talking about me, and the papers would say, who is this Jess Conrad? Anyway, I remember him saying, it was about sort of 3:30, and he said, listen, fellows, he said, 10:30 Monday morning, and he dismissed these people, and I was standing in the door, and out came Gene Vincent, like on my left-hand shoulder, and Eddie Cochran came out on by my other shoulder. Oh, my God, these big pop stars walking past me, and the man who's producing wants to talk to me. Anyway, we spoke, and he said, can you sing? I said, no, I thought I might compare one of your shows, I introduced myself first, as I say, and he said, oh, everybody knows who you are because the newspapers were all full of me. Anyway, he said, can you sing? I said, no, I can't sing. He said, well, so he said, sing for me, and he gave me a broomstick to hold, as if it was a microphone stand, and I sang. And he said, well, it's perfectly true, Jess, he said. You can't sing a note, but I can make you a star by next weekend. And I said, a pop star? He said, yes, I can make you a pop star by next weekend. I said, if I can't sing, how can you make me a pop star by next weekend? And he pointed at my face and said, I want that. I want that face.
Wonderful.
So the whole thing was about the fact that I looked incredibly handsome, and I became, there was an American singer called Fabian, who was a beautiful boy who couldn't sing. I became England's Fabian. That's who he based me on. And of course, I went on those television shows, and I was a star overnight, and that's how it all started. And because before that time, I've been in repertory, learning my trade. I've been a film extra. So I tried to marry both. I tried to be an actor and a singer. I thought if Sinatra can do it, I can. I mean, how stupid of me to think that. But that's how I thought because I was young. But you can't do it. Nobody's ever become a pop star and a successful film star. I tried to do it, and I fell between two stools. In a way, I made lots of good films. I was a pop star, and I made lots of good acting things that I've been very proud of all my life. But you can't really the public won't really accept it if you're both things. I mean, when I was younger, I mean, actors wouldn't do pantomimes. You would never see a straight actor in a pantomime, and things like that. You know, things were very sort of closeted in your own little space. You know, you couldn't diverse at all. If you're an actor, you're an actor. If you're a singer, you're a singer. It was that kind of thing. And I think it's still a little bit like that today.
Well, I'm looking at, you know, done some research into you, obviously. And am I right in thinking that the movies, the acting and the singing basically all went hand in hand time-wise? Are we looking at, what, late 50s, are we? Something like that? Early 60s?
Yeah, I mean, I went from sort of playing Jesus in Godspell, which was a big musical. Then people came from all over the world to do it. To be obviously, you know, the very first touring Joseph. I had done Joseph before. Because there was a time when Joseph first came out, it was very popular, and instead of theatres doing pantomimes, Christmas, they did Joseph. Wow. So I did lots of productions of Joseph at Brighton instead of the pantomime, that whatever year that was, and different other theatres. And then, of course, Bill Kenwright cast me as the first touring Joseph, and I did that for 2 years, bringing it to the West End twice, and finishing up in Blackpool, which, as you know, is the Vegas of England. And I was the hit show that year. And if you're the hit show in Blackpool, it's like being the hit show in Vegas. You are the top. I remember that year on the left pier, which was the pier that's not like maybe the worst pier, but not the worst. Bernie Winters was on there with Schnorbitz.
Yes,
he had broken up with his brother. And on the other pier, Russ Abbott. Russ Abbott was on that pier with Russ Abbott and the band. What were they called? Russ Abbott and the...
Yes, I remember, I do remember them being in the charts.
Yeah, they were the biggest band in the business. And that was on the other pier, but we did the best business because it was Joseph, and we kept extending the tour in Blackpool, and instead of being there 6 weeks, we were there forever, kind of thing, you know. And it was wonderful because I had the freedom of the city. I had and my family came up and stayed with me. I had 2 young daughters, and we went to the everywhere we went was free. You know, all the rides at the fairground there. I was the king of Blackpool. It was quite amazing. And being a great football fan, I loved Saturdays because Saturday meant that I went to see the Blackpool play. Then I went to the theatre, did 2 shows, and I drove home. So Saturday was a good day because it incorporated me watching football as opposed to playing it. And I played football all the time as well. I was in goal for the Showbiz 11. People say, "Why were you in goal?" I said, "Because I got to wear a different colour costume than anybody else." But I've had a very active life, and I've done many things.
Absolutely. Now, film-wise, I know Sue's going to ask you a question or two about your films, but if I let you know, first time I came across you, it was, believe it or not, in The Great Rock and Roll Swindle. That is the first time I ever saw you when that came out, and you were in that scene.
That of course was just a guest part. I mean, before that, you know, it was a guest part.
Almost a cameo, yeah.
Because they phoned me and they said, would I be a guest on it? And I said, well, look, I can't really because I'm in pantomime at Rickmansworth. And I said, I can only give you half a day. So they said, that's okay. Half a day is fine. If that's all you can give us, that's fine. So I found this broken down old Odeon cinema somewhere. I forget where it was now, but I remember going in there early in the morning because I could only do the morning for them. And I couldn't find anybody. The seats were sort of broken down. I didn't know what to do. An assistant finally found me and took me to a room, which was the dressing room, I suppose, and in there was sitting a bloody tramp. And I thought, God, what's this guy doing? He was fast asleep. And I sat there. Then the assistant came in again and said something. I said, look, I'm, you know who I am. Oh, yes, we know you are. And I said, I'm only here, I can only give you a morning, and I haven't had a script yet. Could you bring me in a script? So after a while, he came back with a script. Anyway, I was finally called to onto the set, and the guy who was asleep next to me in that dress room, I thought was a tramp, turned out to be Rotten. What was his name?
Oh, Johnny Rotten, Johnny Lydon, yeah. He was the star of the show, and he looked like a tramp, and he was obviously all drugged up, and he was lying there. And anyway, so we started filming this. I'd learnt my script as such as it was, not about half a page of lines, and I've got to talk to this Johnny Rotten guy. Anyway, Johnny Rotten goes on first and does his take, and I'm looking at the script, to make sure what he says is what he should say and what I should say next. And he started effing and blinding and walking towards the camera, giving this not one word from the script. So I said to the and after which he got a round of applause from all the studio, from the cameraman, from the assistants, and all. They all gave him a big round of applause. And I said, "Excuse me, sir," to the director. I said, "He didn't say one word from the script." He said, he said, "I know, but that's as close as he ever gets." So I realised then that this is like just nonsense. So I got to my time to work, and I got up and also said a lot of nonsense, Okay.
But it was funny because I sat next to that girl.
Oh, Mary Millington, yeah, she passed.
And she
passed
said,
away soon
"Hold my
after,
bag, will you, darling? I'm going to the toilet." And she put a bag on my lap, which was open, and there was money coming out of it, pound notes falling all over the floor. I was picking them up and pushing them back in this handbag, and I'll never forget it. I've never seen so much money in my life, and apparently that's what she used to do. She kept all the money in the handbag, and she plonked it onto my lap and said, hang on to it. So yeah, it was quite a memorable production.
It sounds it, but anyway, I've seen you in much better things. That was the first time I saw you. That's why I mentioned it. And you interested me, the fact that it wasn't in that Moulin cinema that used to be in Great Wimble Street. You said, as you said, you found an old Odeon. So there we go. That was another interesting point that I never knew. Sue, while we're talking about films, Sue, you got some questions.
Yes, I have. Jess, how many films have you been in?
Well, I haven't got the list here, but I mean, strangely enough, I've got my book here. I've got a book here, the films of Jess Conrad. I'll tell you the films then I've starred in. The first film I had the line, it was Filled Up the Creek, directed by Val Guest. That was back in 58. In 1959, I did a film with Cliff Richard called Serious Charge, and that's when we met, and we've been very close friends ever since.
Wonderful.
And that was my last appearance as a film extra. Although I was a film extra, I played the lead of this gang of teddy boys, of which Cliff was one of them, and quite a well-known boy also from Coronation Street was in it. I can't think of his name. I'm looking at his picture now. And then we got The Ugly Duckling with Bernie Bresslaw, which was directed by Lance Comfort and was in Technicolor, and that was very interesting. Then Friends and Neighbours, That was interesting as well because it was Arthur Askey was starring in that one. That was 1959, and then in 1959 I did Follow a Star with the Norman Wisdom, and I just had a sort of walk. Too Young to Love with Muriel Box was a big film for me. That was quite incredible. Because it was directed by Muriel Box, and there was a wonderful American actor who played the Doctor in Stagecoach with John Wayne. Caught me on the hop here. I can't remember his name, but he was the most famous character actor
Austin Willis was
in America. He played the Doctor in Stagecoach. And then, of course, I started making famous films. 1961 was Conga, English version of King Kong, which got me lots and lots of publicity. That's shown. That's going to be on Talking Pictures on July the 31st.
Wonderful.
And Talking Pictures, Conga will be there. It stars Jess Conrad and. Yes, Michael Gough, of course, the king of horror films, Michael Gough. And then I did my own film, Rag Doll.
Oh, okay.
And all these, most of these films, of course, I sing in. Rag Doll, in which I starred, which was a great black and white movie. I played a young gangster. I always seem to be playing gangsters, and the band that were played in the film as my band were the who was the star who played the drums in the 60s? He was the leading man. Not Ringo Starr, but that era. They were a very big band.
Played the drum. Keith Moon.
So they played the musicians in it, but they weren't stars then. And they became stars almost before, just as the film released. They were five. Something five?
Dave Clark 5.
Huh?
Dave Clark 5, I reckon.
Then, of course, I did the Michael Powell picture, The Queen's Guards. Daniel Massey and Raymond Massey was a big Technicolor spectacular. The Queen's Guards, 1961, which of course I sang in. I always sang in my films. Then there was Kill One in 62 with Ronald Howard. And then, of course, the famous one that was a sleeper because it was an art film, but it was called The Boys.
Okay.
And that was with Richard Todd, Robert Morley, Ronald Lacey, Tony Garnett. That was a wonderful, Wilfrid Bramble. That was a great film, directed by Sid Fury, who, when he finished directing me in this in 1962, went to America to direct Marlon Brando in that first Western that Brando did. So that was The Boys.
And The Boys, of course, had the Shadows play, didn't they?
With Aliki Vuyuklaki, who was the biggest star in Greece. I went over there to do that on one of the Greek islands, and of course she was the biggest star on the continent, Aliki Vuyuklaki, and that was with Wilfred Hyde White, who became great friends of mine. That was a great film. And then I did a big film, the first Cinerama film called The Golden Head. With George Sanders and Buddy Hackett. Of course, I sang again in that. All my films I in The Golden Head. That was in Cinerama. And then I started doing guest star billing, and they were cameo parts, but they gave me guest star billing. The Amorous Adventures of Mole Flanders. With Tim Novak. Then I did a proper long part in a film called Hell is Empty with Martine Carroll, who was a big star then, Anthony Steele, James Robinson Justice, Shirley Anfield. That was really great as well. And then I did a guest bit in the Assassination Bureau with Diana Rigg and Oliver Reed, who was one of my best friends. 1970 I did Call It Carol. That was with Robin Asquith.
And that
was great fun to do, Call It Carol. in which I seduced a young actress on a billiard table. It was really fantastic. The Flesh and Blood Show, 1972. The Great Rock and Roll Swindle, 1980. Claudia, 1985. Absolute Beginners, Julian Temple. That was with David Bowie. I guest starred in that.
Wonderful. Brilliant.
Cappuccino Man, Tank Mullings in 89. The Punk and the Princess, directed by Mike Sarn.
Wow,
that was a good film too. And I played the Punk and the Princess. I played the father of the princess, who was a lawyer, and of course the Joe Meek story, which is very interesting because I played Joe Meek.
Wonderful.
And Nigel Harmon, the actor who looks very much like me, played me. So I had me playing Larry Parnes and Nigel Harmon playing me. He looked so much like me, and he was a proper actor, and he wanted to meet me, so he came to my house, and he looked so much like me. And my wife said something I've never heard her say anything like it before. She said, "Are you sure your mother's never met my husband?" And then, of course, in 2016, I did Mob Handed, which was really a paedophile judge I played, which was really against my persona and, you know, my sort of wholesome being. He was a paedophile, but I really enjoyed making that. And of course, you know, I've done so many productions of I played the Great Expectation musical, My Gentleman Pip, and as you know, the Godspell and Joseph and all of those. So I've had a long and very mixed career.
Fantastic.
Apart from the stage shows I've done, so we don't want to go all through them because we'll be here till next Christmas.
Next time when you go and start another show, we'll have a chat about them next time. Now, Sue actually wanted to ask you something else about films, didn't you?
Yes. Jess, what's your favourite film?
Out of the ones you've been in, or something, don't you?
What, that I made?
Yes.
I think the most favourite film I made was The Boys, which is shown a lot on Talking Pictures, and as I say, is going to be shown. Oh no, that's Congo, but The Boys is shown quite a bit on Talking Pictures. That was about a gang of teddy boys that went into the West End, I think that Cliff's band did the music.
Shadows, yes, they were.
For the film. What's Cliff's band called?
The Shadows. They ended up.
Yeah, the Shadows, of course. The Shadows did the theme music for the film. So that was a big bonus back in the 60s. And I think that was my favourite. Only in terms of it being a very good part for me to play and a good acting part.
Fantastic. Now we'll talk about two or three other things. Now you've mentioned a load of films from your book that you have. Could you tell us about the book? I mean, I'll take it this is an autobiography.
Well, the book was going to be called Not Just a Pretty Face. Because I've been lumbered with that all my life.
It must be so hard.
Pretty, you know, it's been just one of those things. And in the end, I had to embrace it and kind of send it up. What was the question?
The question was about an autobiography. You quoted from a book, so I wondered if that was...
about the book.
Yes.
So it was going to be... So I thought, no, that's really silly. So it's now called, because I was born in the Blitz, it's now going to be called From Blitz to Glitz.
Wow.
Oh, I like that.
That's good.
Which is quite a good title, because, you know, I was born in the Blitz, and there's so many stories to tell about the Blitz. You know, you go to school with your gas mask under one arm, and you pick up shrapnel, which was lots of the time was still hot, you know, from the planes. And you go to school, and in those days, you'd swap shrapnel for other bits of shrapnel. In other words, you know, the look of them, you know, the shape of them and things. One boy will say, you know, I'll swap you for your bit of shrapnel if I'll give you this bit of shrapnel. sounds silly now, but those were the days, you know,
Sure.
when you're so young, you don't realise that you probably won't get through the night. And because of the bombing that went on, I used to go out and just look up into the sky because I was a kid, and it was wonderful. The bombers and the aeroplanes and the searchlights. You know, it was exciting. Although, of course, you could have been killed in the next second. But you know, when you're young, you don't kind of think about things like that. You know, but it was an incredible era to live through. And then sleeping was difficult, so because of the air raid. So there was one time when people said go to the tube stations to sleep in the tube, you know. And I lived in Brixton. The nearest tube station then was in Stockwell, which was quite a long bus ride away. So we go down there to sleep, me and my mum. But we stopped that because it was crowded. People were singing all night. It was uncomfortable. So we finished up having an air raid shelter in the garden, which anybody in those days will tell you was absolutely awful. They were little damp places that you couldn't kind of heat up at all in those days.
Sure.
It was what it was. It was kind of called safe, but unless you got the directives, of course, and then nowhere safe.
Sure.
But sleeping in the air raid shelters and things. Yeah, so there'll be lots of stories about that, and the Yanks that came over who looked so much more handsome than our boys. My father was off somewhere. They sent all our fathers off somewhere overseas, and all the Americans came here, and I wondered why.
Yes.
Why was that? Why couldn't us stay here and they send the Yanks to Iceland or wherever my dad was?
I can see that point.
The American soldiers were looked so much better than English soldiers. You know, the uniform was so much nicer. It was. And they all seemed to be handsomer than English guys because most of them had that kind of tan, you know.
Sure.
And of course, that's the first time I saw a man of colour when the American soldiers came over. And I lived in Brixton at the time, but I'd never seen a man of colour. And so it was a rather interesting time. And they gave you chewing gum, and that was a big thrill. And the other thing they gave you, which we didn't have then, was powdered milk. Okay. Which, when you put it in the oven or whatever Mum did with it, turned it into an omelette, you know. So all those silly things you remember.
When can we expect to see the book being published, Jess?
Well, we're writing it now. It's kind of halfway through. We hope to get it by Christmas, yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
Christmas stocking.
Indeed. Well, I'll keep an eye on that. And
not yours, but your assistant.
Yes.
Oh, I like that.
Unless you wear stockings. I mean, I don't know. I mean, show business, you could easily wear stockings. It wouldn't matter.
I haven't got the legs for stockings.
He hasn't.
Well, I haven't either.
You've seen him in stockings then. Well, yes, okay. Well, don't tell the world, but ladies and gentlemen,
only the Commonwealth
wear stockings, and he doesn't look good in them.
It's only the Commonwealth. No, we're all right. We're all right. Okay, well, we'd like to have a chat with you about that when it comes out, Jess. You're welcome back then. Now, want to skip very quickly through music and songs. Something else we can chat about next time. But you do have a compilation out, I believe.
Yes, just for you.
Just for you, Jess Conrad, just for you, and compilation.
That was on Cherry Red Records.
Oh yes, they're very good. We work with them a lot actually, so brilliant.
Yeah, Cherry Red Records. It's quite interesting because everything I've ever recorded is on it,
sure.
And you'll hear my voice actually getting better as it goes through because I made so many records with different producers, and that my voice did improve. And by the time I got to singing in Joseph, you had to sing.
Well, yes.
When I first started to sing, of course, you know, it was pretty raw. But it's an interesting album for all of that because it is true 60s. You know, remember, I co-starred with Brenda Lee and topped the bill over Ricky Valance and Free Rackers and Terry Dean. And in those days, Ted Heath and his band were bottom of the bill.
Wow.
Things changed in the 60s when the rock and roll came in.
Fantastic. So sorry, just remind me, because I've forgotten, I'm sure the listeners at home will all remember, but the name of the compilation again, please?
Pardon?
The name of the compilation again, I can't remember what you called it.
Just for you.
Just for you. Available.
Just for you. Jess Conrad, the definite collection.
Perfect. Just for you, lovely title, available on Cherry Red Records.
Graham Hunter put it all together for me.
Wow, bless him. Bless him.
He's a pop person who loves 60s music and has looked after that side of my business most of my life.
Perfect. Okay.
Graham Hunter. And he put this together, this particular album. So it's called Just For You, and it's a definite collection of all my songs. Fantastic. And it's on Cherry Red.
Brilliant. So you got one very quick question, haven't you?
Jess, what's your favourite song?
What, that I sing?
Yes, please.
One of mine. Well, I quite like. I wrote a song called "Lock Up Your Daughters," which is on this album, which of course I love because I wrote it.
Brilliant.
But it is a good song. But the other one I like is "Save It for a Rainy Day," which was written by Barry Mason and a few of the boys wrote that. Junior Campbell and myself. Save It for a Rainy Day. Lock Up Your Daughters. Yep. And of course, we all love Johnny B. Good, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't be a disc jockey without liking that.
If you don't open with Johnny B. Good, you have to close with it.
I will.
Or do it in the middle, or do it somewhere.
Indeed.
Or do it to the audience in the foyer when you're signing autographs. You didn't do Johnny B. Good because everybody does Johnny B. Good. What a great song.
Indeed. Now, I have a listener's question. Now, this is from Linda Peacock from Stockport. And very nice, sweet question, but absolutely truthful, is how do you look so young for your age?
Well, of course,
you look wonderful.
If I knew that, I'd be a millionaire because I'd be writing about it in books. It's very difficult because I never played in my film career. It was a long time. In fact, I didn't play a man until I was past about 60. I always played kind of juvenile leads or young blokes. My mother had 5 brothers who were all in the Navy, and they all had baby faces. We come from Guernsey, the family. Okay. And very round, baby-faced uncles I had. And of course my father, my mother was a South London beauty queen, so she was gorgeous. Not as gorgeous as me, but nearly. Joke, that was a joke. But she was beautiful, so South London beauty queen. So, and my father was a handsome man as well, and he's a jazz pianist, so he had a big following. So I had good-looking parents. I've always wanted, when I came into the business, I realized straight away that I was very conscious of image, and I was a great fan of Burt Lancaster. Okay. And I saw him on the beach with that in the film where he's with one of those, that lovely star. Can't think of the name now, but on the beach scene, and he had a great body, not like Arnold Schwarzenegger or nothing like that, but a good body. No English actor could take their shirts off. So when I became an actor, the first thing I wanted to do, apart from learn my trade, which I did by going into repertory and going to drama class and things, was to work on my body, and you couldn't find gyms then; they were difficult to find. But I managed to do that, and I went Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday every week for years and years and years and years, so that I could take my shirt off. But I thought if I did that, at least I'd be a step ahead of any other English actors, because the English actors didn't worry about their bodies. The only one that ever had any kind of physique was Sean Connery, of course.
Oh, yes.
But before him, there was nobody.
Sure, okay. And Norman Peacock asks, how do you find today's audience compared to when you started? Is there any difference when you're live?
My audience today, women still fall for me, but it's mainly because they're too old to stand up.
No.
And my audience today, and I'm losing them, of course, is my older fans who leave. I do an hour, and they don't see all of the show because they're in and out of the toilet all the time. But and of course, that's half my audience. The other half, of course, are people that are interested in that era, like young rock and rollers who are interested in the 60s era, which, of course, as we all know, was the greatest era of rock and roll there was. I mean, it took me a long time to appreciate the Beatles, because when I first saw them, they looked so they looked like the Three Stooges, they didn't look rock and roll at all. I appreciate them now 100%, 100%. But when they first came along and knocked us all sideways, I was a bit devious about them. Sure. If that's the right word, devious. Now, now that they've been around a long time and I've learned to with them, I realise how wonderful they were and are.
Fantastic. No, wonderful.
Not as great as Elvis, of course.
Yeah.
And Jess Conrad,
Well,
but
you're still up there pulling them in, so there you go. Jess, it's been absolutely wonderful, but I believe you've got a new show coming up, and that'll be materialising before you come and talk about your book. So what's this show? I think it starts in August. Tell us all about that before you go, please.
Well, it's very difficult to and with how you present a show nowadays. Sometimes I take another pop star with me, or a Norman Wisdom lookalike, or this or that. But I've decided now to do the whole show myself, which means that we put a screen up and all clips of my films and some of my stage work and me as a younger man and I married Miss Kamei, the famous girl, you look a little lovely each day with a beautiful pink Kamei. You couldn't be married in my era. My agent said if you get married, your career's over. So like most of us, a few of us, me certainly, I was married in secret, and nobody knew that my wife, the famous star of Kamei soap, was Dutch. So we drove to Holland and got married secretly in Holland. When my publicity said I was doing a show at Liverpool. So that's how things were. And then, of course, the Beatles came along. This is how crazy show business is. The Beatles came along, and John Lennon was married, and with a stroke of a pen, it was okay to be married.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I see that.
So it was okay to be married all of a sudden. And we went through years and years and years of hiding the fact that we were married. But, that is show business.
Well, there we go. You'll be the one that we look to say that. If that's what you say, that's fine. Hey, may I ask, how many years have you been married? Because it's you were married in the 60s, weren't you?
I was married secretly in 63.
Brilliant. Wow. Well, fantastic. And
so, it's one of the most successful showbiz marriage, I think.
Yes.
I think it probably is the most famous one. I don't know anybody that has been married longer. Not because, but one or other of them has passed away. So it's the longest marriage in those terms. Sure. I'm 85 now.
Brilliant, amazing.
So
you look.
Somebody is beckoning. nice guest for me, but I'm not gone yet.
Well, I think they want you to do a few more tours yet,
There's a few
Jess.
curtain calls to take.
Yes, absolutely. Now, anyone that wishes to find out more about you, Jess, can go to www.jessconrad.com. Once again, that's www.jessconrad.com. And Jess, it's been absolutely amazing.
It's been fantastic.
And to do this properly, Jess Conrad OBE, thank you for coming on Chatterbox UK.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you both so much.
And
it was lovely speaking to you, and I hope you found some of it enjoyable.
Amazing.
And I've got much more to say, so perhaps we could do a Jess Conrad Part 2.
I would love to. Now, now, do you want me to come to you through your website and email, or go through GG? How would you like me to contact you when the book comes out? Because we could do it then.
Yes, that would be great. Well, Gigi's fine.
Okay,
Gigi's
perfect.
fine, or I'm at jessconrad@hotmail.com.
Perfect. Just want to know what you preferred. That's
the
fine.
man, he will
Oh,
probably
yes.
be able to tell you a bit more about things and what's going on than you sometimes get out of me, because sometimes I forget things.
No, we saved a few bits for the next time, but I do apologise that the 25 minutes became like 46 minutes, but it's been amazing. Trust me, it's been really interesting. It's been very interesting.
If you ask questions that you need proper answers to, that when you said how many films have you made, well, I had to tell you, and that took
brilliant.
most of the time, because one forgets how many films I have made. And of course, not only that, they were films where I played the leading parts. I mean,
course,
I
yes.
made, on top of that, I made so many films when I was a film extra, and so I could talk. Well, I could talk a whole day about my career.
Well, Jess,
That's why we call it Chatterbox.
that's
isn't
why
it?
Jess got it worked out with me and Chatterbox. I also have, believe it or not, Jess, I also have another syndicated show called Movie Madness. So maybe we do something on that as well. That goes to 50-something, only 50 stations. Jess,
Thank you. I really appreciate
can
it.
Sue ask you something quick? That's all
It's
right.
fine, it's fine.
You all right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jess, very much. You take care. Good health.
God bless.
And you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.